12 hours after American Airlines flight 5342 collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter in midair. This morning, authorities say they do not believe anybody survived that crash. They have so far pulled 28 bodies from the wreckage. I want to now bring in NewsNation travel editor Peter Greenberg. Peter, good morning to you. You just hopped off a plane yourself. It's unbelievable what we have watched transpire overnight. I'm curious, did this change the mood for you flying or others on board that flight you just took?
Well, it doesn't change the mood for me other than to be very, very sad about what happened. But we have to go back and look at what we know early. Remember, this is going to be a longer investigation. This airspace at Reagan is probably the most restricted airspace of any airport in the United States because of its proximity to the Capitol and the White House. We know about that. And they have there something called a TCA, Terminal Control Area. No plane can fly into that TCA without being given permission by the controllers and by doing something called squawking. That's their transponder that identifies the plane to controllers. What we do know now is that both the plane and the helicopter had been squawking and were given permission to be in that area. What happens next is a little confusing because the controllers did alert the helicopter that there is a plane on final approach. That would be the PSA flight, the American Eagle flight.
Yeah.
Did they? And they asked the helicopter pilot, "Did you see the plane, or have you seen the plane?" And they responded in the affirmative. What's beginning to appear now is that the plane they saw was not this plane. And they continued on their path, and we all know what happened next. They flew under the wing and behind the plane, and the explosion happened, and we now know what happened.
So I know that nobody has full answers yet, but what do you think happened, Peter? Because they also added in that briefing, it was a clear night last night, and that neither of these planes were on any sort of unusual, flight pattern or flight path. Do you have any, what's your gut check tell you, Peter?
Well, even if it's a clear night, that doesn't mean you have great visibility. Remember, it is night. Planes only are illuminated by that flashing red light sometimes, or maybe some lights on the wings. Things are happening quickly. Pilots are heavily tasked during final approach. They were only at 375 feet, about to land on the runway when this collision happened. Right now, the preliminary evidence, and remember, the NTSB is going to take weeks and months to figure all this out. But the preliminary evidence is that the pilot of the helicopter was in communication with the tower and said in the affirmative that he had spotted the traffic. What may be the case here is he spotted the wrong traffic, continued on a path that took him right in to that American Eagle flight.
You make good points there. Night flying is such a different ball game, and when you're on final approach or in busy class, B airspace, just period, there's a lot of moving pieces going on inside that cockpit.
Well,
1 minute left.
I'll give you another example that should be helpful.
Yeah.
Back in 1978, during daylight hours, September 25th, 1978 to be exact, there was a PSA flight going from Los Angeles to San Diego. At the same time, there was a pilot with his instructor practicing in the same area of the airport. And the tower radioed to the PSA pilots, "You have traffic in the area," meaning the small plane. "Do you see him?" And they said yes. But the small pilot plane didn't see the PSA plane, smashed into it, everybody died. And as a result of that incident, they established what we call now the TCA. So even with the TCA and recognizing that people have to positively identify traffic, this has now happened again.
Yeah, thank you for providing that, because I was going to ask you for more historical context and just how rare and significant this is. 30 seconds left, Peter, with you. What more do you want to hear today? I imagine we'll hear more press briefings. What's top of mind for you?
Well, having covered so many of these accidents over the past 30 years, I can tell you we're not going to hear much today, other than the recovery efforts are going to be continuing, and it may take some days because of the conditions under which the investigators are working.
Yeah.
But let's not jump to any more conclusions until the NTSB gets all of their go teams in place and begins to rule everything out before they can rule any one thing in.
Yeah, we know that full report could take up to 12 to 18 months to see. Peter Greenberg, thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.